Hello, today I'm talking about how do we motivate ourselves to take action, to do things, to stick to a plan. And this has come up for me lately because I've noticed how different people are with this, right? Some of us are very lucky to be able to keep our eyes on the prize. And so then showing up with a certain consistent action when you really believe in what you're doing is enough for some people. And I start there because I'm lucky. I think that I'm like that. But I've observed that I have two very close friends who are both very playful personalities. So their energy really likes to go up all the time and be very pleasurable and fun. And so when things aren't fun, it's sometimes hard for them to stick to consistent action. And we've had wonderful conversations about this, and I've been extremely impressed with how they've managed to make it work. So an awful lot of it, I think, is self-knowledge. If we know how we function, we can inspire and motivate ourselves. And that's where the phrase, I think, life hacks comes in and all of that. It's like there are life hacks that are all focused around helping us achieve our goals by kind of hacking, as it were, the self. Giving you an example of something that I realized about myself this week, I went to my dentist who is in Davis, and from where I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, that's about an hour and 15-minute drive. And I thought, I'm crazy. I go to Davis to my dentist. And you can believe the San Francisco Bay Area is full of people who are wonderful dentists and could treat me locally. I had a really good dentist here, and the personality match wasn't quite right. They had a tendency to take a more of a guilt-tripping approach around self-care, and there was always kind of a bit of an interrogation when I went in. And at that time in my life, I wasn't as consistent as I am now with my care, and I just really didn't like it. So when I went to Davis and was in graduate school, I started seeing a dentist there, and that was a really interesting experience because I loved my dentist. The whole ethos was great, and also they were very good. So now for years being done with graduate school, I continue to drive to Davis. So that was one way that I realized, the drive to Davis is fine, I can do that. How am I going to make sure I'm consistent with my care? Go to a dentist I really love, even if they're in Davis. So that was why this came up for me this week. I'm S.J. Harrison, voice and performance coach, and I delight in helping people show up for their performance situations. When you shine a light on the voice, you shine a light on the whole person. So as a coach and a teacher, I also think a lot about how do we motivate ourselves. So in the instance of my friends previously, whose energy is very playful, they've worked out that in order to stay on an exercise program and a diet, they have to make sure it's fun and that they create some variety within that to keep them on track. And then if it's fun enough, they can be committed on the days when they might not quite feel like it. So learning how to motivate ourselves, and that's a very personal thing based on your personality, is really key to growth. And then learning what structures will support you. You need a structure that's quite strong, but can have some flexibility within it to support your creative process, your learning process. I believe structure is very important. It's a bit like boundaries are important, right? When we have boundaries, then we can go even further into intimacy. When we have structure, we can take greater risks in learning. And this even goes into parenting. So as a holistic coach, every week I think about these things as they come up in my life and in the lives of others. Please do check out my pre-recorded video on Friday, which is all about technique. So learning physical techniques for voice and performance is another form of structure and practice that we need to motivate ourselves to do, and that will also help us to show up and perform. Here's to unlocking your performance power.